they would not have to pay that full value. We're also seeing buyers wanting to substitute a portion of the cash purchase price for stock consideration, where once again the seller can still get the potential upside of the value of their company, assuming that the buying company does well, but the buyer avoids having to write a check for the full amount today. And then the last thing that, again, that we're seeing heavily negotiated in a lot of deals is additional termination rights. Again, exactly to avoid the issues that came up in that Bed Bath & Beyond deal that we talked about. A couple things that we're seeing is additional ability to get out for financing issues that with a little bit more flexibility than we have seen in the past. We had a deal that signed last week where we were able to negotiate the buyer's ability to terminate the deal when we got to closing, if revenues between signing and closing had not continued with certain numbers that we agreed on. The buyer would then be able to basically get out of the deal, basically arguing that, you're not, whether it's the target company's fault or not, we're not seeing the results that we had hoped would come back with everyone back at work. And, therefore we're going to have to reassess what a proper purchase price is. So I mean, those are really like the 3 or 4 things that we're focusing our clients on. In general, we're always still advising our potential targets to keep their books in order, continue with business as if everything is normal, because you never know when that buyer is going to come knocking on your door. Things might be back to normal before we know it, and use this as an opportunity to kind of prepare for that eventual sale, even if right now is not the right time. And it's just very important to use this time also to identify potential risk factors that could derail a sale. So, basically, the advice is, take advantage of this time, because other companies are out trying to get sold. If this is not the right time for you, then, and it might be in 6 months or a year from now, then just don't waste the time and figure out, basically do a self-assessment on your own company and figure out, if you were buying this company, what would worry you about it? And now you have time to try to address those concerns so that when it comes time to the actual sale, you don't have as many of those risk factors that could scare a buyer away. So that's really kind of an overview. I try to keep it short because I know we don't. Everyone doesn't have the attention span that we used to. So I don't know if we're opening up to questions or not. But if there are any, I'm happy to take them.
Hey, so Avi, I mean, this is. I wish I could have you in the room when I'm speaking with clients, because I mean, you hit every single point to a T. I mean, in totality. I mean, all the issues that you brought up is issues that we try to address up front, during, and even post merger. And I can relate to the Bed and Bath deal, 100 Flowers. We were involved in a very large transaction. Still negotiations are ongoing, but the deal has just made a complete 180. One of their clients was Fairway. So to your point where, I won't get into it too much, but they went no Fairway filed for bankruptcy. Right. That was a major issue. And then you mentioned about accounts receivable, which is huge as well. So the business may be good, but they may have money in the streets that's owed to them they're not going to collect, because some of their companies actually probably also went out of business. So, I mean, everything here I can relate to 100%. You're hitting some pain points as well. Most of my clients, are on the sell side, so I can relate to a lot what you're speaking about here. I want to open it up. I think Stephen Brodsky had his hand up first. And then let's take 2 more questions after Stephen, and then I want to jump straight to Nancy. So, Stephen, you're up next.
Thanks, Avi and Kyle. So I'm interested in the particular industries that are alive and that have a possibility of staying alive, because I'm familiar with all of these issues too. I have a client that's a clothing distributor that got nailed in a bankruptcy because Walmart, which it distributes to, and its suppliers shut down in East Asia. a friend of mine handles movie theaters as his clients, and you're all familiar with the AMC thing that went haywire. That's his client. So all of those, but it depends on the industry, right? So movie theaters, I think, is an open question. Restaurants, we all know hundreds of thousands of restaurants are going to be out the window. Hundreds of thousands of small businesses have filed bankruptcy. All of the brick and mortar retailers they are disappearing. So I'm interested, and when you drive down Jericho Turnpike, everything is shuttered for the most part, right? All brick and mortar stores. So I'm interested mostly in what industries and types of businesses are okay, or what ones are you actually doing deals with? What's going on with them?
Yeah, so I think a number of the like business logistics, that space is still, we're still seeing activity. Anything that relates to supply chains and shipping, is seeing an uptick. And as you said, retail is probably in big trouble. Movie theaters are probably in big trouble. Pharma. I think we're still seeing a lot of activity, especially if they're, someone who's trying to get in on whether it's a vaccine or a treatment or something COVID related. We're seeing, I don't play the stock market, but you see what's going on with some of those companies.
Avi, let me sharpen my question.
Yeah.
This market that all of us are in right here, right? I don't believe many of us are going to be doing a deal with big pharma. I would find that surprising. But I'm curious as to like Long Island businesses. I really am. Because when I drive down, like I said, every business is closed, or whether it's a storefront for a business. But as far as your clients and Kyle's clients, where you're selling or you're looking to sell, I also had a client, who's a restaurant, and valuation issue. Luckily, they own the land on which this restaurant sat, so that affected their valuation in a different manner. But I'm really curious about local, small to medium businesses. Which are the ones that are still alive and have things going on?
I think it would be the first one I said. The companies that are in that business logistics space, as far as I can tell, still seem to be doing well. A lot of their work can be done remotely. Everyone's kind of just going on business as usual. Those are the clients that I speak to that are content, if not happy, with how things are going. Some of them are even seeing increased sales and are excited to be able to get out of their lease at the next possible opportunity, and because they've been seeing that things are going just as well, if not better, with everyone working from home. And I think they have seen their values increase over this time. As for the companies that are failing, they're not obviously not doing well, but it doesn't mean that they're not ripe for sale. We're seeing a lot of deals being spoken about and the framework being your company basically your only asset is your customer list and your goodwill, and maybe you have one or two key people that we would want to keep along, and they're just basically throwing out offers to companies left and right with pennies on the dollar offers and saying, come work for us, bring over your clients, shut down your business, and that'll be it, because the companies that kind of got through this and weathered the storm have themselves a very good buying opportunity.
Yeah. Steve, I could answer your question so that I could elaborate at a later point. I don't want to take up too much of time as well. But as far as industries, I think top of that list is IT and technology. Those businesses are getting pretty good valuations, especially those that have ongoing business. Anything that's software or SaaS related are getting pretty high valuations. E-commerce businesses, specialty trades, companies that deliver plumbing, HVAC, heating, cooling services. Those businesses are not going away, because summertime you need cooling for your house, wintertime you need heat, and so on. Home improvement, most people are working from home now. People are fixing their decks, they're fixing up their house, they're putting in commercial grade equipped desk and so on to work from. Nate, I don't want to pick on you, but I know you've been looking at different opportunities. What are some sectors that you see that would be great for you, or just in general? based upon Stephen's question.
Yeah, no, I think you just touched on it. I mean, on the industrial side, anything that kind of points to productivity increases on the industrial side, I think has a lot of benefits. So that could be industrial automation, anything that's supportive of kind of the robotics turnaround. That's the kind of like a machine vision support. The digitization trend is happening in a major way. So that can be data analytics, predictive, and any services that could be tied or catalyzed with the concept of predictive analytics. So that even points to kind of process control, air purification systems, field operations. So from my sense, all the companies I've talked to who are focused on either industrial automation or digitization or predictive maintenance or data analytics, or even, yeah, to your point, even HVAC systems, because they have this predictive analytics support, they've been growing pretty strongly. The packaging sector, and I apologize, my video's not on, but the packaging sector has been doing very well. The biodegradable packaging sector, eco-friendly packaging, so those sectors. But brick and mortar retail and some of the direct consumer-facing industries clearly troubled.
Thanks, Nate. I'll take one more comment or feedback. I mean, Avi, wonderful. You broke it down really nicely. I don't know if anyone else would like to give a
I have a quick question if I can.
Sure.
Avi, you mentioned it's a buyer's market, which certainly didn't come as a surprise to me, but can you kind of break down, the sellers, their motivation? Like, what percentage are you seeing where they just feel like, if I don't put my company up for sale right now, it's not going to survive, versus maybe the company's doing okay despite everything, but the owner has just thrown up his hands. I've had it. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that almost all of the sellers that we are talking to, and I obviously don't know what the deal is when we're representing the buyer, what necessarily their full motivation is, although sometimes we can guess, our client might have an idea. But it's generally, they're in the category of they're selling because they feel like they have to sell now. Or just because there's no, as I said before, like the scenario of the guy who's been owned this company for decades, and he's 71, and he was probably going to sell in the next few years anyway, and he'd rather enjoy his life than spend the next 3 years rebuilding this company and getting it back to where it would have been. Or just, companies that really had to lay off a bunch of their employees and are just in big trouble, and I guess figuring, let's see what we can get for this thing before it goes to zero. That's definitely the majority. I think most of the sellers that we've spoken to who are in good shape are seeing now is not the time to sell.
So if I can make one shameless plug here, I will be talking about this tomorrow, my presentation. One thing, Avi, you touched on a little bit in your presentation, which I'm going to elaborate a lot more on in my presentation tomorrow, is the tax code and what could happen after this election. I have spoken with companies, very large companies that are involved in sales, that they want to sell this year because they know whether Trump or Biden is in, even with Biden, the capital gains tax is definitely going to go up. If Trump is in, he's probably going to be forced to raise it. I don't see him keeping it at that level. A couple of sellers are very nervous about that. I have some clients I have personally that are considering making some considerations if they can to be sold this year. So with that being said, any last minute comments before we transition over to Ms. Vargas? Okay. Thank you so much, Avi. This is great information and it's on point topic. Great information. I appreciate it.